Hi everyone, it's Katie from Chords Records. Welcome back to my channel. I could not have been more excited when the two Vinylphiles were announced a few weeks ago. Counting Crows and Sheryl Crow together. These two albums are really important to me from a time in my life that was quite pivotal, and I could not have purchased them more quickly. And I just want to talk a little bit about the specific releases that have arrived in my mailbox in the last week. So this is the first one, Counting Crows. So it's if you're not familiar with the Vinylphyle, they're a amazing kind of audiophile quality series. There's so many of them that has been put out, and the quality is stunning. They're doing about 2 to 4 a month, I think. Universal Music's kind of series. And to get a new quality release of this album is so special. And I can tell you right now, if you like this album, get this. It is just beautiful. The quality is stunning. I've got my original CD from 1994. It was a really important year in my life. It was quite pivotal. I was ending a relationship and I decided to go to Woodstock on my own. It was the 25th anniversary of Woodstock, and this was the soundtrack to that trip. So I went from Australia to Woodstock on my own. I decided to go last minute. It took 3 days to get there. 3 days of the very muddy, very wet, amazing concert experience, festival, and then 3 days flying home, and that was it. I was back in 8 days, and I was I've been a photographer all my life. I've exhibited photography. I've done a lot of music photography, and I decided to take my twin reflex Rolleiflex 60s kind of medium format camera, as well as a Nikon, I think it was Nikon SLR analog camera, obviously film camera back in the day, and I photographed Woodstock for 3 days, and I've been slowly going through all those photographs, and this album was the soundtrack to that journey. Listening to it on the plane for the 24-hour flights, the bus rides to Woodstock, the endless hours in queues, until I finally pitched my tent and spent the 3 days roaming around photographing, and then the return flight home. And whenever I listen to this album, I think of that journey. But let's just talk about the album. It was just stunning. And this particular issue has been, it's an all analog mastering by Joe Nino Hernez at Sterling Sound. At 180 gram heavyweight vinyl, pressed at RTI, includes a 4-panel insert featuring new liner notes, tipped-on jacket, gatefold jacket on a clay-coated board. And the board is beautiful, and inside, you won't be able to see it, but it's kind of gold, a gold inside, which I thought was lovely. Archival poly sleeves, and it's a limited edition. So this is the album. It's in this gatefold, as we said, kind of reproducing the original album, and the actual vinyl itself, it's flat, quiet, completely beautiful, and in these beautiful RTI anti-static archive sleeves. And then this is a really great liner note. They both have them, which I'll show you in the Sheryl Crow in a minute, but they've got obviously the image du jour at the moment of the tape boxes, which everyone seems to be doing, which is quite a fun look at. And then these beautiful liner notes, which are brand new. A liner note written by Rick Florino, and there's a really fantastic kind of detail in these liner notes. Unless you read the fine print, you may not pick up. On February the 8th, 1994, Florida State University undergraduate and concert photographer Mike Ruthig attended and shot the Counting Crows at the Moon in Tallahassee. Coincidentally, Mike is now Vice President of A&R at Universal Music Enterprises and is the producer of this reissue and is actually very much involved in all these Vinylphyle reissues. And from the slides he took that night, they've included them for the first time in this gorgeous kind of liner note interview. It's really fantastic. It's a beautifully written essay, and liner notes can be hit and miss, but this is really well done because it very succinctly sums up who Counting Crows were and how Adam Duritz, the lead singer and main songwriter, how he had arrived to be in this band and what they did with the band once it was formed, and the famous kind of SNL moment that kind of sort of projected them into stardom in 1994. It came out in January 1994, and the Woodstock that I went to was in August 1994. So by the time I was listening to it and had the CD, it had been around for 6 months and it had become a huge, huge hit. The wonderful thing about this music, it's the fusion of sort of rock, gospel, folk instruments. It's there's nothing like Counting Crows in my opinion. Beautiful songwriting, but for me it's Adam's writing. He was a major in English history, and I just wanted to read you a lyric which really struck me as I was kind of reading through. I know this album back to front. I know every note, every lyric, but I sat there intentionally listening to the music and reading all the lyrics as it kind of, it kind of filled the room. And it just reminded me of what a beautiful writer he was. I mean, a song called Perfect Blue Buildings. I mean, how beautiful. But the lyric I want to read you is from Anna Begins, which was one of their hits. And it goes, I'm not going to break, and I'm not going to worry about it anymore. I'm not going to bend, and I'm not going to break, and I'm not going to worry about it anymore. It seems like I should say, as long as this is love, but it's not all that easy. Or maybe so I should snap her up in a butterfly net, pin her down on a photograph album. I'm not worried. I've done this sort of thing before. But then I start to think about the consequences, because I don't get no sleep in a quiet room. And the time when kindness falls like rain, it washes me away, and Anna begins to change my mind. And every time she sneezes, I believe it's love. And oh Lord, I'm not ready for this sort of thing. I mean, it's such a beautiful lyric. The whole album, all his music. Obviously, this is the album with Mr. Jones on it, Omaha, Perfect Blue Buildings, Round Here. I mean, every song is masterful. It's a double album, so each side has about 3 songs on it. So lots of room to breathe on the vinyl, lots of room for information. And produced by T-Bone Burnett. They kind of got a house and they moved in and just recorded it in this house. And I just think it's a perfect album. Absolutely love it. And so really pleased to have it. It's probably, I mean, I wish I could have, it's probably going to be my favourite album of the year, even though it's a reissue. A follow-up to that, which I've also got on CD, Recovering the Satellites, is also absolutely stunning. I just love them so much. All right, the next one was Sheryl Crow's sophomore album, self-titled Sheryl Crow. And I loved Sheryl Crow. This was the same time as Counting Crows. It was a sort of really pivotal time in my life. And I'd say Sheryl Crow is one of my favorite female artists. Her longevity, her songwriting ability. And this album, of course, she'd come off the back of Tuesday Night Music Club, which I also have the vinyl of, which is very hard to get now. This was a reissue that I got a few years ago. They cost a fortune to get the originals. And she'd come off this with her, Leaving Las Vegas, All I Want to Do, a really, really great debut album. And then How Do You Follow It Up? And she followed it up with this incredible and probably her best album, the self-titled Sheryl Crow. And this is the album that has songs like Every Day is a Winding Road, Maybe Angels, A Change, It's Hard to Make a Stand. It's a really beautiful album. And really impressively, it was produced by her. So she's really young. She's had this huge mega hit in Tuesday Night Music Club. And she decides to go down to New Orleans to Daniel Lanois's studio down there. And one thing led to another, and she ended up being on her own and thinking, how am I going to do this album by myself? And she realized she probably had the ability to do it herself. And she rang up a friend of hers, Jeff Trott, who she'd met along the way. He gave up a tour and he came down and joined her. And they have subsequently been friends and collaborators for 30 years since. So this is 1996. And he co-wrote 7 of the songs, including Every Day is a Winding Road with her. So 7 of the songs on this are co-written with him. Very pivotal character in her kind of DNA of songwriting. And she invited Trina Shoemaker, the brilliant engineer who was an engineer at that studio at the time, to help her. So really, Trina and Sheryl created this album together. And Trina Shoemaker actually went on to do the Globe sessions with Sheryl Crow as well. Now I've got the DVD of her live tour of that. And this is a really great vinyl file. It's remastered, which I was surprised at. I hadn't realized that Counting Crows wasn't, but this one has been, it's the first time on vinyl, a first proper re-release on vinyl. And it's all new, what does it say? All new, from an all new remaster. It's an ADA, so it's not a AAA. So analog, digital, analog, cut by Jeff Powell from an all new remaster. Pressed at RTI. And the Sheryl Crow is no different in that it's got a similar kind of tape pamphlet with the original master tape information and some fresh liner notes about the recording of the album and the story of taking it to New Orleans and recording it in the swampy hot air of New Orleans. And the liner notes were written by Jim McDermott. So again, Mike Ruthig from the Counting Crows edition. He's obviously the producer of this series. Tip Tom Jacket and all the bits and pieces and limited edition. And it sounds great. It's probably, for me, it doesn't sound as good as the Counting Crows, but maybe that's because it had a digital step in it. I'm not sure, but it sounds a little bit, sort of a tiny little bit thin, but it is also a different type of music. Beautiful story about this album is she was touring with Crowded House off the back of Tuesday Night Music Club, and Crowded House's drummer Paul Hester was suffering severe depression, and he asked to leave the tour mid-tour, and Crowded House were left without a drummer, and they asked if they could use Sheryl Crow's drummer, who, yes, absolutely, and was very excited and actually played both sets, both Sheryl's and Crowded House, every single night. And Sheryl recalls that she was speaking to Paul Hester before he left the tour, and he'd just had a baby called Sunday. And she said, oh, was she born on a Sunday? And he said, no, she was born on a Tuesday. And that always struck her. And that's how the line, she was born at Easter on a Tuesday, in Every Day is a Winding Road, came about. And sadly, Paul died not long after. And when Sheryl found out about that, she wrote that song, and she has said in interviews, whenever she sings it, she thinks of Crowded House and thinks of him. And that's just that one story off this album. But they record it in the swampy, hot air, open windows in New Orleans, and a beautiful sophomore album, probably her best album. Also on Vinylphyle. I've never had this on vinyl. It's never been released on vinyl. Very happy to have it. So Universal knocking it out of the park. Very happy. So that's it. I just wanted to talk about these two Vinylphiles. Let me know what you think, particularly about the Counting Crows. I'm super happy to have that. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.